welcome to AnyWho. We're midway through the season, and it's coming up to the finale pretty soon, isn't it? Because it's quite a short season.
It's a shorty, like me.
Yeah. And we've not spoken yet about the episode Dot and Bubble, and we've not spoken about Rogue.
No, we haven't.
And these two have really stirred up the internet. I mean, social media's gone absolutely ballistic.
Yeah, slightly.
So it's probably good to sort of unpack all of this, and also unpack some of the arc that seems to be poking out, if you see what I mean, from under the bed sheet.
Yeah.
So, and today our guest is Daniel Northover, who's been with us before, but we just, we had to invite him back because he hadn't met Merv. No. And already I've not got a word in edgeways before the podcast.
You have. You just said it. You just said edgeways.
I'm terribly
That's your word.
Sorry.
All right.
I should try to be more restrained.
Okay.
So Dot and Bubble. So we start off in this idealistic world that parents apparently have sent their children to this idealistic world where they are incredibly happy all the time, and they only have to do 2 hours of work a day, which apparently is terrible because it gives them cramps.
Apparently they're on planet privilege.
Planet privilege.
Yeah.
And
I won't say what type of privilege.
was it called? I can't remember what it was called now. Was it called Prime Time or something?
I was Fine Time.
Fine Time.
Fine Time. There you are.
Fine
I
time.
knew it was something
and
like
and
Prime Time.
And a fine time it was indeed.
Because that's what everybody wants to be on Prime Time.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, I started immediately thinking about the fact that when I grew up, we were poor. I was a working class girl, and so when I had children, I wanted to give them more than I had. So if this is the distant future, obviously parents are wanting to give their children even more, and so I think this planet is a reflection of people spoiling their children way into the future.
Certain types of kids, certain types of parents, I should say.
Yeah.
If we're looking at backgrounds, I mean, I look at my boys and when watching them growing up, and I just figured that just as long as they had fun, and they didn't need to have everything. So I didn't have everything, and I had fun without once again going down the we were poor route. Yeah. Guess what, we were. But anyway, playing out. That's all that mattered.
Yeah. But the thing is, it is sort of a, parents always say, I want my children to have more than I did.
Oh, indeed. But fundamentally, we want them to be happy. What I felt, the first thing I got from that episode, like literally within like a minute into it, was this notion that, somebody's really hating social media. And that was the first, before it developed, as in the story developed, the first thought was, which I thought was a bit kind of like broad strokey if we're going down the satire route. And I thought, okay. But it's like, I get it. Next,
Yeah,
it does.
And the bubble is obviously people living in their bubbles of only people they like. Yeah.
But also, you have a world which, because it's a very rich crowd of people who are there, it's interesting the fact that they have been sent to this world between the ages of, I think it was it 17 and 27?
Something like that. It's a bit Logan's Runny, but
you end up going permanently. I mean, again, it's we want you to have a great time, and we're only a call away if you want to speak.
It's like boarding school, isn't it?
Yeah, only it's self-indulgent. It's a lot like those programs where it's sort of cribs. It's sort of, My Sweet 16 Party. Yeah. It's a lot of money thrown at people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet, pretty much from the get-go, it looks comfortable, but everywhere looks like a hotel.
It's all pastel.
And of course, the reason is because the residents don't see it ever. It seems they go into their bubble, and all of their socializing, even if they're with the people, is inside a ball. The room can be anything.
Yeah.
A friend of mine actually said, when you're actually going around the environment without the bubble on, it doesn't look very interesting.
No,
and I did say, it doesn't need to be.
It's a bit utilitarian, the buildings and things like
Why
that.
would you do more when you never see it?
In fact, it could have been a real rat hole, and they wouldn't know it was a rat hole.
Absolutely. And also, it seems that they don't physically engage each other at all.
No.
Which is
odd, because they're all hormonal teens and young 20-year-olds, and all they do is worship, judge each other, but worship certain people.
Sort of that fame, that internet fame.
The internet fame bit, yeah.
But only at a kind of conceptual. There's no
sex in there.
There's no sex.
Attention is the most important thing.
Yeah.
The single most important thing. And as long as they get their clicks, likes, whatever, the numbers go up. It's all. That's literally the only thing that matters. Because then, for some bizarre reason, your status. We are talking science fiction here, are we? Or you know.
I know, but Russell T Davies has always sort of taken what we've got now and just moved it a bit further on.
Exactly.
I mean, he did it with Years and Years. He took a lot of stuff that was going on.
But I think I've mentioned this before in our previous episode. Pretty much 99% of all science fiction that's got something to say is always a reflective of where we are at this precise moment. You know what I mean? You know.
There's if you remember the old Anderson programs, particularly UFO, it's literally whatever is now extrapolated from this with no variation. So the groovy 70s become the groovy 90s, only super groovy, with extra super groovy outfits.
Gabrielle Drake in that purple wig.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like...
Drake. Sorry, that was involuntary, sorry.
Is that a normal response?
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just going to have to sit here like this.
But yeah, it's the idea of... It's the idea of developing technology up to valves and then never developing transistors, and then everything is made of the same thing as that goes on. So,
but I mean, they have to, because you know it's very difficult to sort of, you know, to Star Trek, the first ever, you know, the original episodes. Of course, the computers were all flashing lights and big boxes, which are not how they are
exactly.
now.
Although they're like proto Alexas though.
Oh yes, and also just memory chips being little blocks that you drop into this. But that's luck of the draw.
I from the off, I found the characters so vacuous to the point where, I mean, they are a parody, obviously, and she's
obviously Dot gets annoyed with them because they're so vacuous.
You know, and but to the point where they're so unlikable, it's kind of difficult, even as it goes along, to be kind of like, do I really care?
Do you know how I actually felt? Because with stories, you hope for a redemption arc. You hope that someone comes from a position of X, then realises what they're like and comes through to the other side as an improved or at least more positive-facing person. In this particular case, and I'll be honest, the actor involved, she's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Because you did at all those points... When she ran into a challenge, you were hoping that she would, and sometimes she would develop a tiny amount of skill, and you go, "Good for you!" Given you've just been self-indoctrinated, and family indoctrinated into this privileged position where you get everything, but and also you don't have to think.
She became slightly self-aware. I mean, number one, like when the walking, that great line, "I am so stupid." Yeah, you know, it's like. I wouldn't have expected that straight away. No. And then by the time she meets,
she walks very
September.
Quickly.
Yes,
and then she's running.
His first name. But
she walks.
Jack September or Jake September or something like that.
I'm going to be honest. I'm very old.
Okay, but
I can't remember his Christian name either.
Mr. September. There you go. I'm being very formal with him.
Mr. September.
And she did seem to soften and kind of like be a little bit more aware of her surroundings, and he, you know, she took him by the hand, even though she was like, obviously he's a dreamboat and all that sort of business. But at the same time, she's kind of willing to go with it. And he's like, okay, and step out of her existence.
And he actually was the only likable
absolutely,
character.
Absolutely. And what do we do with likable characters?
Kill them.
We kill them. Folks. Spoilers.
But the thing is, he is, you know, he's the one that doesn't wear the bubble all the time.
No, absolutely.
He's also standing in for the Doctor for all the running about bits.
Yeah, of course.
He's literally guiding her in exactly the way the Doctor would. Except you can't kill the Doctor, or at least
you can kill him.
Yes.
And but that it was a great little moment when she just suddenly shouts out, but his real name is whatever it was, and that the ball
begins with C, not P.
Yeah, and it's like boom, 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 and you think, oh right, I get it now. I get it. Yeah. She's not only unlikable, she's awful.
Yeah, she's an
really
actual
awful.
psychopath.
Yeah, and we want that ball to go right between her eyeballs, not his.
But also, it's that telling thing that this is a very again, we say privileged, and again, it's not just in one direction, it's in all directions.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It is that you are the most important person in your world.
Yeah.
And even someone who you will follow or whatever, if they are in your way, literally you throw them under the bus.
Yeah,
and
like Boris and the kids playing rugby, yeah.
I was just thinking of actually, Trump may not be very clear about all the different, things that go on in the world, but I absolutely know he has numbered all of his family and friends into which order they will stand in front of him to take a bullet. Because, and it's that...
he'll drag in front of you.
It's
He'll drag
he'll line everyone up according to that number.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's that idea that I'm the most important, therefore... And again, she does say at the end, thank you, even though it's your duty.
Yeah.
It's the idea that it's your job to save me in some way, which is terrifying.
It is terrifying.
Well, I have found, I mean, the big
elephant in the room.
the big bucket of water, very cold bucket of water that's placed towards this whole story at the end. What I found interesting in the response to that is like when people say like, "Oh yeah, I didn't notice all the others. I didn't notice all the others. I didn't know the others." Without sounding too, this is not a position of smugness at all, far from it. But you have a lifetime of watching TVs where, guess what, folks, you don't see too many people like me on there. You do tend to notice straight away, and so. Although they really went there, which was actually very brave of them, it wasn't the biggest of shocks for that. But
when did you notice there were no diverse faces in the bubble?
Interestingly, right at that point, it was literally at the end, and the reason is, and I'm afraid to say, as well as television not doing it, Doctor Who historically hasn't been great at it. But it has done some very good roles. It's also done some dreadful runs, which
I mean, it was still a product of its, no pun intended, time. But it's really, you can't. I don't think you can single out the show because if you're doing that, then you have to. You bring in pretty much every TV show that's on there.
It is.
And also there is an element there, and this is in no way justifying it. But we have seen basically monoracial worlds.
Absolutely.
And having that as a thing doesn't suggest anyone's been excluded. It just suggests that that's all there is. We've only seen a small gathering of them. We don't know.
It might be just her bubble that it's all white.
Yeah, but
exactly.
It's very clear afterwards.
It's alive and well.
Yeah. I think when they started showing the alphabetical order, that's when I clicked.
Yeah.
So that was a little way in.
So I mean, I'd said actually in one of our very first episodes. In fact, it was when we were talking about the giggle. There was a line in the giggle that I wasn't too happy about.
I remember now.
Because I felt it was very mawkish and very cheap and very lazy, and that was when do you come in all shades or whatever like that? Yeah. And I just thought, is this where we're going now? Are we going to have the character being defined? Because once again, and it isn't just Doctor, it's usually across the board. When you have a non-white character, their non-whiteness will play into it at some point for no other reason, and then you think, well, there's more to the character than just that. Now, I don't get me wrong. As soon as the black actor was cast, in the same way as soon as Jodie was cast, I was thinking, right, okay, there's going to be situations where it will come up. There's no way around it, particularly historically. Yeah. Okay, and that's fine. But to go but to have it from the get-go was like, oh, really?
It was a slap in the face.
It was really. So for this episode alone, though, the way it was treated, I actually thought it was treated respectfully.
Yeah. And his frustration was just so clear.
It is. And you just, as the boat went off and everyone kept on thinking, is there a submarine that's going to torpedo it? Or
is it just going to go
sink,
straight off a cliff?
Yeah.
We were all hoping, weren't we?
But here we go. But there wasn't any lively, kind of like a little bit of optimism at the end. No, he walked out, the little shot of him, he turned his head as he walked into the TARDIS, end of episode.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to feel good, folks.
Nope.
Okay, because it's not a good feeling. End of. It's about talking, as we are, or talk. Hopefully, it will bring that conversation up more and more. But at the same time, when you've got an audience and a certain section of the audience who sees that and thinks, yeah, Yeah, I know exactly what that is, pal.
But you know, on socials, some people didn't even get it at the end.
No.
They thought, oh, was he older?
Bubble.
Was he older than them? I was like, what?
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I've seen some people one go that they feel that it was not, how can I put this, not pointed enough.
Right.
Some people who are white and should know better have made some very unpleasant comments. Some people who are black didn't even notice
Fine.
that was what they were talking about, because their assumption is that the Doctor is black, so this is not the thing they would go down.
Yeah.
I will say they were American, and I have a feeling that their focus on the series is as a British thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So they didn't necessarily tune in on some of the more subtle nuances.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one thing I am glad about is that they didn't do it in a historical setting, because that would have been easy.
But it will, it will, and you know what? It should come up. It should come up.
But not all the time.
But no, because then that's not what the show's about.
No.
And like I said, and regarding going back to Jodie,
I'm glad they've had a big space before it's the first mention.
But I also think, I mean, somebody, where did I see that? It was photoshopped about all the possible actors who could have played the Doctor in the past, and there was a brilliant Photoshop of the Doctor with Sarah Jane and the Brigadier, and they'd photoshopped a picture of, and this is nowhere an exaggeration, for those who don't know, I'm an actor, writer and director, but one of my absolute biggest inspirations was a guy who's still around, called Derek Griffiths.
Oh yeah,
and he had Derek Griffiths as the Doctor, and I just thought, that's just the single greatest piece of casting ever, other than Oliver Reed playing James Bond, but that's another conversation.
Was he mainly on children's programmes?
Sorry?
He
was primarily on children's TV. Yeah, he was on things like Play Away.
I remember him a lot.
He did some education stuff.
He did a lot of education. He did
loads of voiceovers.
Heads and Tails.
Yeah. Bod,
yes, it was. Copyright.
There's a flashback. But yeah, Derek Griffiths now replaced Sylvester McCoy with Derek Griffiths, and it's a pretty close match.
Oh, you couldn't replace Sylvester McCoy.
You know what I mean.
You couldn't replace Syl.
In terms of that kind of thing, in terms of performance style.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so, yeah.
But then again, maybe he would have gone down the Pertwee route. You have the clown who plays it straighter than anybody who's ever played it before or since.
They don't get the chance normally.
Absolutely. But anyway,
but yeah, so the whole episode was, I think, my sons just said, you can tell Russell T Davies is getting old. And I was like, what do you mean? Oh, just bashing social media and, because he doesn't really understand it. And I'm like, fair enough.
Okay. Well, that's a perspective.
Yeah.
It is.
That's a
But
view.
to be honest, my boys don't operate on social media like.
But I didn't get the impression, and I've used this expression before about was it Angry Man shouts at clouds?
Yeah.
We don't, it never really got that. He actually did have some things to say. But in social media, I see social media as really it's a wasted opportunity on the whole, really, because you've got this amazing thing that brings the planet all together, and let's all look at what everyone else had for dinner.
Yep. What is the internet for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cats.
And complaining about whether the He-Man cartoon is too whatever,
But it is what it is, and how humanity uses it is very human.
Yeah. Makes you pray for Armageddon, frankly, but there we go.
Funnily enough, though, I can see where your son's coming from, because actually, let's be honest, the bubble world is Facebook.
Yeah.
It's not Instagram, it's all the people. And that's generally for the over 50s these days.
I think X is pretty bubbly.
Well, that's a different.
I would deliberately stay off it.
Yeah, I don't go.
Hence why it's a bubble.
But I'm old. I can't stay off it because I'm old.
But I will say, okay, but get back to the actual episode itself. There was one kind of, I was slightly disappointed in one area because I was wrong about something. Because I initially thought they did a bit of a deep dive, and I thought, oh my god, no! Because one thing we haven't mentioned are the creatures,
slugs.
The slugs. Now, initially, when I saw the design and I
wondering,
one word screamed at me.
Shall we try and say it at the same time?
1, 2, tractators!
Yes, I thought it was probably
And
that.
we needed to be foaming more at the mouth, like Turlo.
I'm not a master
No. But
love him, but I'm less frothy.
less frothy than Strix. Well, there's a line. And I was somewhat like disappointed that they weren't them.
There is a very good reason.
Copyright.
No, it's not even that. It's because, unfortunately, due to the change fundamentally in history with Newton, the Gravis would now be called Mavis.
Ah. Okay.
That ain't going down.
No.
Hey, Mavis.
But
I mean, it's a good revenge one to have.
because I remember like watching the extras on the DVD for the original episode Frontios. And they were saying how one of the original idea for the tractators were they could be more like woodlouse, so they could curl into balls and they could roll and then they'd open up like that.
They
but obviously technology
dancers for it,
and then essentially what you got was guys
an
walking around
inflexible
like that.
fiberglass outfit
Exactly.
with feet.
But the idea was there. So when come Dot in the Bubble, and you saw these creatures kind of curl over a bit and then open up and they go. And what really, I mean, watching the Unleashed thing was very good. I just sniffed them, by the way. Unleashed, itchy nose, bloody hell. Was how little CG was actually used and how
practical
it was.
possible.
I thought, wow, more Disney money, please.
But this is stuff that Disney hasn't tended to do, whereas Doctor Who is definitely going down the route of.
Yeah.
But in terms of the show, though, very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very dark ending.
Yes.
I think my favourite bit was her looking across and seeing her friend being eaten. That was. I just found it. I was just laughing.
Just the feet.
I was just laughing hysterically because I thought it was so funny.
Yeah. So, just when you thought the internet
safe.
could be upset, the following week went, hold my beer.
Yeah.
So,
first I think that's what RTD said.
One of the complaints, before we even carry on, one of the complaints I read this week was people complaining the fact that, it's too, like, all these meta references to, like, Bridgerton. I've never seen Bridgerton, so I don't really... You know what? I've never seen Bridgerton, and I got it.
Yeah, you can.
Costume drama. I have seen
Regency. It's
exactly.
Dangerous Liaisons.
People with fans go, oh really? Oh really?
Yeah.
Being I saw her foot.
But to make up from the previous week, Bridgerton is renowned for having black characters,
as it ever.
And also having popular music performed on strings. And they didn't get that, so you know.
Wow.
Well, they did get one track.
There is one track.
Yeah, Libertango.
Which
1974. Yes. But
for
those who are slightly a little bit like of the 80s will remember Miss Jones doing using it for a track. Well, I actually originally thought they were going to go into that, which they didn't. When Grace sang I've Seen That Face Before. But either way, brilliant, a fantastic piece of music and used very well.
Yeah.
But the episode itself, it kind of felt a little bit more conventional. In regardless of what other the bits and bobs that happened, but in a good way.
There was monsters.
There was running around. There was a companion in peril.
It's got all the ingredients, except it felt what is the storyline? Cosplayers come to Earth and kill the people they want to cosplay.
Yeah. I thought it was weird that they actually said cosplay.
And then repeatedly kept on saying the word cosplay.
And
towards the end,
it was really odd that they would know that word,
or certainly use it as often as they did. It felt like it would, Russell D Davies holding up a sign, going,
cosplay.
"I've seen fans, but not to death."
Yeah.
Well, then again, that maybe they could come back. They should have an episode. How meta would this be? Okay, an episode where they go to, I don't know, San Diego Comic Con or something like that, and then all of a sudden, all the dressing up people are dressing up, are attacking them or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Oh yeah, write that now. Do that. I want to see that.
We have yet
Come on, Disney own Marvel. They'll say yes.
Of course, the question is on their own home planet, do they keep on going, "You're more interesting than me," and zap each other?
Well, there's that.
Because as a skill,
I imagine they'd be really boring.
Yeah.
Because this is what they have to do.
And also, they want to be Bridgerton. Yeah. And even the cleaners are more interesting.
Yeah.
the housekeeper and the.
Yeah.
But
the whole thing.
I will be honest. The actual storyline
was a bit flat, wasn't it?
The actual narrative storyline was flat. The dialogue was really good fun. I mean, nothing like. It's a very difficult cheese. Behind a fan. That is probably one of the best lines of this whole season.
She called him Stilton, didn't she?
Yeah, it was just Lord Stilton, and he just looks confused. It's a very difficult cheese as she breathes past him. And again, that's a completely dangerous liaisons.
Yeah.
But there
were bits that were really, really good.
You just end up sitting there going, and this is possibly a judgment on this. So the Duchess is a very interesting character with great lines of dialogue. Walks out, is rude to the staff, so gets killed. It does feel ever so slightly like they can't kill a good person there.
Yeah.
They have to have done something horrible first to justify it. But it's a shame we lost that sharpness. Imagine the Duchess at the end just cutting them dead. I mean, if you want to stop cosplayers, belittle what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, gosh.
Exactly.
And someone
That's done
like
online
her,
as well.
It would have. Maybe for me, that would have been. There are more interesting directions to go. It did feel like the story with not Captain Jack, Rogue.
Yes. That's his official title. By the way.
Yes, he does actually have that on the
Captain
T-shirt.
Jack,
Not Captain Jack, being Rogue. It did feel like there were two stories written, and one had to be integrated into the other one.
There was two writers, so maybe they were fighting over what was going to go in it.
You're aware that one of the writers wrote for Loki.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're aware that Russell called out the episode that writer had written on Loki for not being more direct with the evidence of Loki's bisexuality in the series. That was literally the one where he basically called Disney cowards for just doing a quick throwaway line rather than this is a good
There's
chunk
more
of
to it than
Loki's
that.
character.
Yeah. Playing it safe, so to speak.
And then getting the same writer over here, who I think had been limited by Disney previously, to then actually do it right on Doctor Who, and a position that Disney could not stop.
Yes.
So not just the gammon.
Well, you know what, the gammon, I don't know, there was some really weird comments like, but the Doctor's always been heterosexual. How can he suddenly be gay?
When?
And I went, bisexuality.
But also, okay, so most of the time he's been kind of like asexual, if anything.
Yeah.
And there's
At
that
the
line
beginning.
from City of Death. Yes, you're a beautiful woman.
Probably.
Yeah.
Again, it's that observation of humanity from the outside because you're a 1,000-year-old Time Lord.
I think it's a big thing that people tend to forget. A pretty fundamental thing that he's not. They are not us. They are not human.
No.
To quote the Ferengi. Wrong show.
Oh man.
Wrong show, yeah.
But he, and it's just like in the same way that people say, "Oh, well, he's changed. Oh, I don't like who he's changed into," and they're going to change. How can they change into this person or that person, or even though it's like that's the concept. They can change.
Yeah,
they can change. So you don't like what they've changed into? Well, that's neither here nor there.
No.
Sorry, that's
one of the things I keep saying is the program is about change. Yeah. So if you can't cope with change, don't watch the program.
And when they start throwing away the line, it's woke this and woke that and all this sort of business. It's kind of like, have you actually watched this show before?
Yeah. I'm. It is terrifying.
Go and watch The Green Death.
Go and watch Curse of Teledon. Go and watch The Daleks.
Yeah.
Basically, the second story is about dislike for the unlike and functionally fascist oppressors who would destroy everyone else.
Yep.
And his genesis of the Daleks, because he can't write a different story, sadly.
Absolutely.
But it's been like that from the first story is actually about cooperation.
Yeah.
The third story...
They had an educational remit about it. So, stop... What show do you watch, people? What do you see? I mean,
it's
calm down.
No, but it is the idea that if you are this, then you can't have anything other than this. It is a show with laser guns and monsters, and that is it.
Yeah.
And it never was that, and it almost certainly will never be that.
I know, that's what I'm getting a lot on the social media. That why have they changed it from how it used to be when it was this, and this, and there's a list of things that
you were 4 at the time, and that's all you saw.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to pick up that Curse of Peladon is about joining the EU. Or as it was, the Common Market. The situation with this is that you have to be open-minded, and bear in mind that if you're not, you're a Dalek.
Yeah.
Essentially, you are what the Doctor fights
against. Yeah.
Because he will help the oppressed, the people in difficulty. He will try and save people as opposed to deliberately not save them or cause them more. He tries to cause less harm, not more harm. Do you know what I mean? It's what is your objection? If he can't kiss another person, male or female, fine. I mean, if that was an actual thing, but he's been kissing them or a peck on the cheek or a tap on the nose from the beginning. And actually, a lot of the time, it hasn't been romantic. It's been friendship.
Yeah.
And big hugs and those kind of things. But now we have a situation where the Doctor found someone, and I will be honest here, it does feel a little bit, he found the prettiest person in the room and then snogged them. That's a bit shallow. And also, he did manage to find a relationship of sorts within 50 minutes. Maybe a little longer, given it was a party.
I mean, sci-fi, that's common. Captain Kirk, he was in love with everybody.
Not sure it was love.
No, lust. Actually, lust,
I think they're getting it on.
Anything with a heartbeat and a backbone. Yeah.
Well, but I'm saying that it's very similar in that, he's gone head over heels over somebody in one episode, and so did Captain Kirk. He'd see a pretty girl.
But he wasn't wearing a pointy bra.
Yeah, no dorsal antennae.
No, and green.
Which is how it goes. And he didn't have to wrestle someone to get there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, that is I miss that. I miss a bit of wrestling before the.
I'm sure Shooty would be up for it if you asking politely. Certainly with Jonathan Groff. I'm not particularly objecting myself.
Outrageous folks.
But ultimately,
counsellors.
Ultimately, you are sitting there, and this is what I mean by thin storyline.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got the device to send them to destruction. Okay, well, I won't allow that, so I'll send them to another dimension. Okay, there's enough for 4. Okay, I'll up it to 6. And I'm sitting there going, so that's going to be you in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest here. Are you aware of Torchwood Captain Jack Harkness, the episode?
Which one?
That is the one where he travels backwards in time and ends up at a dance with the original Captain Jack Harkness that he nicked the name from, who he then sort of falls in love with there and then, and then they are separated.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that's the same story.
Well, there's a lot. What I'm finding this time is there's a lot of repeats, and so for example, when he's first with Ruby, it's very much Nine and Rose, and then what's the thing that Rogue says about his sonic screwdriver? Oh, I've got some shelves you can put up. Has Captain Jack said that? Yeah. And the baddies on this were like the Family of Blood a little bit.
Yes,
very much so. Yeah.
And there's just so much that feels a bit regurgitated, and I don't know whether it's on purpose because of the story arc, or whether it's not.
The funny thing is, of course, is that this story wasn't written by Russell.
No, it was 2 women. Yeah.
However,
2 women.
Yeah, which is frankly not enough.
Yeah.
We need more through the series. We need more. We do. But not only because we need a lot more representation from women in science fiction anyway. Yes. What we actually do need is, I'm sorry, Russell, other people writing.
Yeah.
Because Russell has done this for a long time, and
he's
also,
getting stale.
We're very clear he does burn out doing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And he has done now 2 seasons, which we are seeing the first of, and he's already done the second one.
Yeah.
So I don't like the showrunner model. I've said this before. I think that actually having
a writer's room.
even a series of writers with an overlapping space, so it's not quite a collaborative effort. You get individual flavours because Doctor Who needs that. It's not Friends.
The thing is, I watched Deep Space Nine, and they had an episode where they brought all the writers' room people back together, and they showed how they would write another episode. And I just thought that is a much better model than having just a showrunner saying, right, you do this, you do that. This is where we're going. These are the rules.
It also allows people to go, I don't think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the magic no.
Yeah. And the problem is when there's one executive person who's not only writing but also saying the magic no, it's very difficult for anyone else to.
Yeah.
Stephen Moffat, I think, probably could. I think probably Chris Chibnall could say to him, you sure?
Old Neil Gaiman said he wouldn't write again because Russell completely ran over his episode that he...
Stephen, it was Moffat.
Was it Moffat?
It was Moffat.
Was it Moffat?
Yeah.
Oh, bizarrely.
It's Matt Smith.
Yeah,
it was
Matt Smith.
Yeah.
It was that awful...
With the kids.
With the kids,
The kids.
And my son was going... Which was such a letdown
after his first episode, The Doctor's Wife.
Yeah.
Which is a glorious.
They're fundamentally different.
Yeah.
But he said that he hadn't written, that Moffat just changed it and he made a mess of it, and so he said he wouldn't do it again.
I mean, again,
he doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it.
No, he doesn't need it.
He should. And again, people like that should do it because they want to do it, and they should be because again, this is script editing, not show running.
Yeah.
This is someone coming in and going, okay, this is what's going on in the season.
Yeah.
Here is the framework. We're about here.
Yeah.
Can you write something that fits into that, and can we talk about it?
Yeah.
At the moment, we're now, what are we, episode 6
There's
of
only
8. So there's we are into. I mean,
I think if it was a longer series, he would have given more episodes out.
Previously, there's been a problem with it because I remember when he first did it, the number of writers shrank over time because it was.
He didn't trust.
He had to rewrite a chunk of stuff,
and he found that harder.
And I think Stephen Moffat probably had to do much the same thing, but also was distracted by other things, so that didn't help with narratives.
Yeah.
That's why a script editor is such a useful thing to just let them run.
You have got to have a script editor, and I think Moffat was the one that least used a script editor.
Yeah.
And you can really tell.
Yeah.
So, and it's sad. It's sad because he was, when he's got a showrunner over him, he writes bloody brilliant stuff.
When there's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
Between actually we need to breed Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat.
Yeah. Together.
In captivity to produce some. In captivity.
I mean, there are a fair few writers of other shows that I'd like to see have a stab at the show. I'm always still not heartbroken, but that the Stephen Fry episode never got to be, given the basic synopsis that he's only given out little nuggets over the years about what the idea was, and its working title, the 1920s. But apparently the basic thing was, the issue with it was, if they were to make it, it would literally take about 6 episodes worth of budget to do.
Well,
now they've got Disney.
We are now in a different position.
Exactly.
And also the special effects and the capabilities have improved. I mean, again, you look at Bang with its surround sound set that isn't actually a set. It's just visually, it's video, basically, around you that looks realistic.
Yeah.
As seen in The Mandalorian.
Yes, there are ways of doing these things. Yeah. And we are still promised a Whoniverse, which will be other stuff.
Yeah, and of course Disney will want that.
And to be fair, I think we should all want elements of that.
I've always been err on the side of caution regarding things like spin-offs, etc. I'd rather...
You don't want to saturate it.
Well, not just that, but also what you tend to find is the writing across the board tends to suffer. And as a result, I'd rather energies were put into smaller areas, as in less shows, than think, we could do this, and we could do that, we could do this, we could do that. And you just know sat around the table, whether it's Disney, the BBC, or whoever, is saying, okay.
Salivating.
Exactly. We have this. We can do that. Taking the Marvel model, but then the Marvel model has changed.
Yeah.
Even in the last 12 months, they've actually suddenly realised we need to cut back a bit.
But also,
my kids have been turned off by Marvel.
Yeah, there are some of it which just. Again, it's the idea of the Netflix model of keep churning it out and hopefully something will stick to people's attention. Whereas, because it's Bad Wolf Productions and they are expanding their production, one of the problems historically with Doctor Who was, because it's a forever changing series, is that the people doing it would burn out over time. Whereas if you actually have a few spin-off series, they can almost be... testing grounds for new writers. They can be literally. You can have these things feeding in.
Just hopefully not another a revived series of Class.
See, I still say if you take out the Shadowkind, it's actually a lot better. But they're like a half brick in the way of narrative continuity.
I just felt that the tonally it was all over the place. I saw the first episode at a screening whilst I was in the States, and I was watching it and I was okay, and then all of a sudden it got ridiculously violent, and I'm thinking, hold on, what's this? Where's this going? Whoa. And to the point where it was so jarring tonally that it suffered. It really did suffer.
Right.
And I thought
some very questionable narrative decisions.
Right. Okay. I want to go back to talking about the general arc, and there's lots of little things that we know are going to be coming up.
Okay.
And
we call this section "Called It." I just made that up, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, we're talking about the fact that there's triad everywhere. On the buses, on this word triad is coming up a lot in the episodes, and there was a character called Susan Triad, so S Triad.
Susan.
S.
Think about it.
I know, but S Triad is an anagram of TARDIS.
TARDIS, indeed.
And this woman that keeps appearing, Susan Twist or Susan whatever,
who is playing Susan Triad by all of the trailers.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, there's always a twist at the end.
So we're all sort of waiting now to find out who she is and why she keeps appearing. And you were saying that she could be a TARDIS to me.
She could be a TARDIS. She could be. Since 2005, one of the names that's been bandied around is because it's always got to be. Oh, you got to bring this person back. You got to bring that back. You got to bring this back. Okay, and one of the major ones that we still haven't had back is obviously, I'm going to say, the Rani. Now, it seems to be every year now that name.
Everybody debates whether she's coming back.
Oh, the Rani.
Any woman is the Rani.
Any
man is also the Rani.
Mrs. Flood's the Rani as well.
Absolutely. To that, I just say, you know what? I'm actually going to I enjoy being blissfully unaware. I want to be surprised. I'm not digging deep.
No.
I'm just kind of letting it wave over
deep.
me. I know some people do. I get that. I absolutely get that. And I have done in the past. But at the same time, I'm thinking, you know what? Let's just sit back and enjoy. Let's just sit back and enjoy. And then whinge and moan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are... I mean, again, speculation is fun. And
I think it's fun.
Given you have no evidence until it comes round, it's still a fun thing. So, as you say,
a podcast to go
Susan or S Triad as TARDIS. Now we have had
S Club TARDIS.
Sentient S Club TARDIS. We have actually had sentient TARDISes in the novels.
We have, yes.
As human ones. That's one thing. Other people, and I think this is tenuous, but it's the way it goes, have said it's Susan Tech or S Sutek. Which I think
to be pronounced Sutek the Destroyer. Oh, well, but you mentioned triads, and you know, when I think triads, one of the immediate things I think is are Chinese gangsters. Chinese gangsters. Now, tenuous link and going back to the slightly dodgy sort of racial politics of the time, but unfortunately, there's a great story in there. And could we see the return of Magnus Grey?
There's one, and
probably not, but
probably not. Also, we have a situation where this character is popping up through time,
yes,
but seems unaware of
The fact that she's
Yes.
popping up.
There is no suggestion throughout any of it that
she
they are
knows.
aware.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not. They only see them on screen and they're talking to their child.
Yeah.
It's all very interesting. I mean, again, the last one I can think of who was splintered in time is Scaroth.
The last
of the Jaggeroth.
Well, maybe she's the second last of the
Yeah,
Jaggeroth.
Mrs. Jaggeroth.
What's it?
Mrs. Jaggeroth,
Mrs.
indeed.
Jaggeroth?
Often
what about-
voted the greatest Doctor Who story of all time.
What
Absolutely.
about Clara? Because she was sort of supposed to have splintered into different parts of the Doctor's life.
Again,
Yeah.
that's someone who's thrown themselves into the time stream of the Doctor. And
Yeah.
Russell hasn't been above nicking Stephen Moffat stuff.
Yeah.
So again, that's
And
another thing.
I've had his River Song coming back, and we're getting so much
I
speculation
don't know.
that it gets
Maybe
actually...
she's the master and she'll pull the mask off.
But the one thing that Shooty did that I was really exaggerated was putting that ring on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's a master ring.
Well, I was
Possibly.
thinking in terms of his, there are more dimensions than there are atoms in the universe.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the ring going, good grief, have a look at the ring you've been given just before this all went off.
Yeah.
He might have proposed to you, but on the other hand, there might have been better reasons to give you that ring.
Yeah.
Particularly since if you look at it, it is actually got a thingy on it.
It has got something on it,
Yeah.
hasn't it? Like a bee or something.
Yeah, it would be an interesting one to find out.
And the other thing was, because they had the close-up of his hand, everybody was noticing that he has an eye on his nail. But I think that's a Shooty thing and not a Doctor thing.
I think that's...
And so they're all going, oh, well, what's the eye? Is it some sort of strange symbol?
I mean, think about it. You got a tremendous amount, as an actor or writer on the show, whatever, you got a tremendous amount of power to think, let's just put any old shit in and just wind them up.
And also,
And there'll
I
be
might
columns
use that
and
later.
out.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that we still have fans who are still going over the idea that the tattoo of John Pertwee in Spearhead from Space is actually his prison tattoo by the Time Lords, rather than it being an old naval tattoo.
Yeah.
And it does actually look a bit like a question mark and a snake. So
It does. It does.
So they might use it. They might use the fact that he's got that, because it is.
It's a good job.
It is
Hopefully,
a
I
thing
won't play the
against the
Doctor.
evil eye, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Because hopefully, when if I ever play the Doctor and I have to see my tattoo, then that would really break the universe, frankly, because it would mean that the Doctor could possibly be a Kryptonian.
I suppose it also depends where it is.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to see that.
You're not
bit.
going to. It's in a relatively PG-rated place.
Okay, that's good. That's really reassuring.
Because that might break Doctor Who.
Yeah. Yeah, if you had to show your bum or something.
The other one's on the pay-per-view site, but we're moving on from that.
Only fans.
Good Lord.
only nans in my place.
Only nouns. Oh my God! Sorry. Well, I think that's probably it.
One last
bombshell.
little thing I will say on Doctor Who-ness. My latest thing, I started watching. I only watched the first 10 minutes, didn't have time, of the animated version of the 1965 story, The Celestial Toymaker, and I'd read it. It's a lost story. It's been animated. Read it and I've heard the audio before, but I'd never really realised just how fast-paced it is. I mean, 10 minutes I'm into it and it's like, boom, highly recommended.
Okay, there you go.
I've seen the last episode before, though.
Absolutely.
Because it's the only one that exists.
Yeah.
Anyway, that bombshell.
All right, thank you. And if you want to view us, go to the usual place, like and subscribe. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.